As days went by, the village became smaller and quieter. People no longer traveled to the big cities. By the river, there stood a small hut. An old woman lived there. Her name was Nanu Ma. Nanu Ma lived alone. She had no children. Her tiny hut had an old wooden door. In winter, smoke from her clay stove drew soft patterns on the wall. Every morning, she sold torn clothes at the market. By noon, villagers called her for small chores. At night, she sat beside a dim lamp and fell asleep listening to stories. One rainy night, when Nanu Ma was returning from the market, she heard a faint sound of crying behind a pile of wood. It wasn't an animal's voice. It was a child's cry. She went closer and found a little boy, soaked, shivering, and alone. His clothes were muddy. His lips were dry and cracked. He held a small piece of clay in his hand. Nanu Ma took the boy home. The villagers said, "Someone must have left him there." No one knew whose child he was. Nanu Ma raised him with care and love. She named him Jaber. Jaber grew up honest, humble, and hard-working. He helped the villagers every day, pulling carts, feeding cattle, and bringing tea for Nanu Ma at sunset. Some villagers mocked him, calling him the boy from the cracks of a hut. But Nanu Ma loved him like her own son. Jaber had one dream: to earn respect through faith and hard work. One day, news spread through the village. The king announced a marriage for his daughter, the princess. He declared, "I will not give my daughter to a rich man. I will give her to one who understands the value of kindness and service." Villagers laughed. "Will Jaber, the hut boy, marry the princess?" But Jaber smiled and said, "If I never try, I'll never know." He told Nanu Ma, "Mother, I want to go to the king." She was surprised, then softly said, "Do what your heart says, my son." The next day, Jaber went to the royal palace. Guards stopped him, but finally he stood before the king. The king grew angry. "How dare you ask for my daughter's hand?" Nanu Ma fell to the ground in fear. Jaber felt pain but stood firm. The king said, "If you want my daughter, prove yourself. By tomorrow morning, your hut must look like a palace. From my gate to your door, a path of silk must be laid. 400 people must stand on horseback wearing royal clothes. If you fail, there will be no marriage." Hearing this, Nanu Ma cried. But Jaber calmly said, "I will do it." That night, Jaber gathered the villagers. He said, "Tomorrow is a great day. Help me and I'll pay every worker." The shopkeeper, the painter, and the village women, everyone came forward to help. They worked all night, sewing silk, decorating lights, building dreams. By dawn, the hut looked like a palace. The silk road was shining bright. 400 villagers stood proudly with horses. The next morning, the king looked from his window and was shocked. He saw a miracle, not by magic, but by unity. He kept his promise and gave the princess to Jaber. The wedding was grand and beautiful. But that night, Jaber said to the princess, "I have some work outside." "Please don't tell anyone," she agreed. Jaber was a talented performer. At night he wore a mask and danced in city plays. Soon his name spread everywhere. One night the princess whispered, "That's my husband." The news reached the king. He was furious. "My son-in-law, a stage dancer? That's a royal disgrace." He banished Jaber from the kingdom. Later, the princess learned Jaber had been captured by a traitor named Kulshad. He forced Jaber to work as a craftsman. Disguised as a wealthy buyer, the princess traveled across the sea to find him. During a festival night, she helped Jaber escape secretly by ship. They returned to the kingdom together. The king realized his mistake. He asked forgiveness from Nanu Ma and his daughter. He gave Jaber the honor he deserved. Jaber then used his skills to improve the kingdom. He helped the poor and stood by the weak. Moral: with patience, courage, and unity, even the poorest can rise high, without any miracle or magic. Friends, how did you like this story? Tell us in the comments below.